You were told it was a rock, a tumbling shard of interstellar debris, silent and inert, drifting across the cosmic void. That's what they said back in 2017, when the first of them, Oumuamua, streaked through our solar system at impossible speeds. It came from nowhere. It had no tail, no coma, no glow of evaporating ice. It didn't behave like any comet. It didn't look like any asteroid. It sped up as it left, against gravity, against logic, against everything we thought we knew. And then, it was gone. If you're still watching, subscribe now. You crave more than answers. You seek what lies beyond. Subscribe now, and be part of the few who never stop searching. For years, the scientific world debated, was it natural? Was it artificial? Could it be a probe, a derelict, a message? Most dismissed the idea, too fringe, too speculative, too uncomfortable. But not everyone turned away. A few minds, sharp, skeptical, unafraid, kept watching the skies. And now, those few are the ones sounding the alarm. Because Oumuamua has come back. And it's not alone. August 2025, a dozen eyes in orbit catch the first anomaly. Fast, dark, cold. It doesn't emit, it reflects. It slides silently through the edge of the solar system. Then a second object appears, following it. Then a third, then more. Within weeks, there are 15. Not random. Coordinated. Moving in formation. They don't talk. They don't signal. They don't emit radiation, but they move precisely, with corrections, with intelligence. And one of them is adjusting its trajectory, slowly, silently, toward Earth. That's when Elon Musk goes on record. This is the biggest discovery in human history, period. It's not a question of if we're alone anymore. It's a question of who's watching and why. The public scoffs at first. Old news, some say, space junk, cosmic coincidence. But behind the scenes, panic spreads. Not fear of invasion, not yet, but fear of implication. These objects challenge physics. They move without propulsion. They accelerate without fuel. Their paths curve in ways that don't make sense under Newton's laws or Einstein's. And they're back. The name Oumuamua gets resurrected, Hawaiian for scout or messenger. But scouts don't come alone. They don't make one pass and vanish unless they're mapping, measuring, or reporting. Suddenly, every telescope on Earth is turned skyward. The James Webb Space Telescope diverts operations. Chinese deep space radar arrays shift focus. The European Space Agency pauses its Mars mission planning. NASA convenes a covert task force. And private companies, Blue Origin, SpaceX, Axiom, begin launching payloads in record time. Autonomous probes, sensor drones, interceptors. The new mission, contact, intercept, understand, and if necessary, contain. You begin to see the pattern. Oumuamua wasn't an anomaly. It was the opening chapter. The objects don't communicate in any known way. No RF, no laser, no EM burst. But when one changes course, the others follow. Lagless, instantaneous, as if they're synced like drones in a network, or cells in a living organism. And then it gets stranger. NASA's solar probe, Helios 7, flies within 2 million kilometers of one object. Instruments go dark, not from jamming, from overload. Magnetic field readings spike 300%. Spectrometers report impossible materials, non-reflective alloys, unknown isotopes, hyperstable molecules. Then the probe shuts down, power systems fried, batteries melted. When Helios 7 reboots 3 hours later, the object is gone. But its signature remains. In the radiation, in the silence, in the data we can't explain. Some scientists suggest the objects might be ancient, relics from a civilization so advanced they no longer care to hide. Others propose something darker, not probes, not scouts. Surveillance. You're not being visited. You're being monitored. Elon Musk proposes a radical idea. Interception at Lagrange Point 1. A multi-company coalition forms overnight. SpaceX Falcon Heavies are rolled onto launch pads. Tesla AI cores are repurposed for orbital drones. The Chinese send an experimental magnetic sail. The EU funds a joint laser array. The Pentagon reactivates a dormant space defense protocol known only as Project Sentinel. And still, No response from the objects. Until August 17th. One of them blinks. That's the only word scientists can agree on. It emits a narrow beam, infrared, tight, laser-like, directed not at Earth but at Saturn's moon Titan, for 23 seconds. Then silence. Why Titan? Was it a signal? A test? A rendezvous? Theories multiply. What was once the realm of conspiracy becomes national policy. Congress classifies the majority of findings. Leaks flood the internet. AI-enhanced imagery suggests hexagonal symmetry on one object. Another appears to unfold like an origami bloom. When exposed to solar radiation, one begins to pulse. Rhythmic, slow, steady. Still. No message. No pattern. No known language. And yet, some researchers claim the objects are responding. Not to signals, to observation. Data from optical arrays shows that when telescopes focus directly on a target, the object's thermal profile fluctuates, as if it's aware, as if it notices being watched. Quantum physicists enter the conversation. Wave function collapse, observer effect, conscious matter. The conversation shifts from engineering to existentialism. What are these things? Are they drones? Are they alive? Or are they something else entirely? September 3rd. One object dips below the ecliptic plane. Trajectory inbound. Estimated path toward Earth orbit. Still weeks away. But every major nation mobilizes. NORAD shifts to DEFCON 3. China launches a direct ascent interceptor. Russia revives its Cold War-era orbital weapons platform, Polyus 2. SpaceX issues a joint mission statement. We are not preparing for war. We are preparing for understanding. But we will not stand blind beneath the stars. The UN calls an emergency assembly. 193 nations listen as a joint scientific panel reads its findings. These objects may be operating under physics, not yet understood by humanity. Their silence does not imply passivity. Their behavior is suggestive of coordination. Their return is not an accident. Behind closed doors, military leaders talk about contingency plans. If the object enters Earth orbit, if it emits energy, if it lands, if it doesn't leave. But what if it isn't hostile? What if it's waiting? That's the haunting part. They've made no demands. They've sent no signals. But they haven't left either. They watch. They drift. They hover in perfect silence, holding position just beyond reach, like shadows outside a window. Somewhere out there, 15 Oumuamua-like entities remain. And every instrument we point at them gives back the same message. Unknown. 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 You start to wonder, what if this is a test? Not of technology, not of readiness, but of maturity, of curiosity, of restraint. What if the true message isn't written in signals or lights, but in how we respond? Do we attack the unknown, or do we reach for it? Do we react with fear, or with purpose? In the end, maybe that's what they're here to see. Maybe they've been here before. Maybe they've always been watching. Maybe Oumuamua was never a rock. Maybe it was a question. And now you're living through the answer. No one sleeps much these days in Houston, Beijing, or Moscow. Everyone's waiting, watching, wondering, because something is out there, something real, something vast, something ancient, and it is moving toward us. Slowly, deliberately, not in peace, not in war, but in silence. And in silence lies judgment. And then it stops. Right on the edge of Earth's orbital sphere, the leading object comes to a full halt. Not a deceleration, not a slow glide. It stops, like a machine obeying a command, like something that's waiting for a handshake before crossing a threshold. The world holds its breath. For the first time in recorded history, something has entered our solar system that doesn't behave according to the rules of nature, and then it deliberately chooses not to come closer. Every agency on the planet, every surveillance network, every classified intelligence node is trained on it. That one object, silent, unblinking, suspended like a needle balanced on a thread. And that's when the signal comes. Not a sound, Not a radio burst, a gravitational anomaly. Barely detectable, measured only by the most sensitive LIGO-style observatories. A localized ripple in space-time, too small to be natural, too controlled to be accidental. It radiates in pulses. 5, pause, 5 again, then 3. 5, 5, 3. No known pattern, no mathematical identity, no cultural encoding, but unmistakably intentional. A message perhaps, or a doorbell. The pulses repeat every 2 minutes, on schedule, unchanging. And then another object joins it. Now there are 2, side by side, like sentries, and behind them more are coming. Not fast, not chaotic. Orderly. They're forming a perimeter, a wall, or a grid on the boundary line between the Earth and the void. Whatever this is, it isn't random. This is positioning. This is staging. Governments spin their statements. Scientific interest, they say. Cautious optimism. They parade expert panels, show off calm faces, rehearse terms like non-hostile and anomalous. But internally, panic. The White House Situation Room is locked down for 72 hours straight. Top brass from Space Command are flown in from Colorado under encrypted movement. The Department of Defense issues black budget authorizations to dozens of contractors without explaining why. And in Silicon Valley, the quiet race turns white hot. Palantir develops a real-time monitoring suite to track gravitational ripples. Apple dedicates an entire underground team to EM pattern analysis. Neuralink starts injecting military-funded algorithms into closed-loop machine learning models, trying to simulate what these objects might do next. Because if they can move with intention, if they can stop, if they can signal, then they're aware. And that means this isn't just a flyby. It's contact. One night, Elon Musk releases a private video statement. Not an ex-post, not a press conference, just a single drop into the data stream sent directly to trusted contacts in aerospace and defense. This is it. We may never get a second chance at this. If they're waiting, then we respond. Not with fear, with awe, with precision, with everything we've got. He's not talking about weapons. He's talking about a launch. The Artemis X capsule, an experimental fusion-powered craft built under SpaceX-Boeing collaboration, wasn't supposed to fly until 2028. It's been under wraps, shrouded in misdirection, its real payload unknown. But now, it becomes humanity's first emissary. Mission profile: a crewless flyby, close approach, full-spectrum sensor sweep, data retrieval, no comms, no approach protocols. The plan is simple: look, don't touch. Launch is set for midnight. The world watches. Across 5 continents, 24 time zones, every screen goes black for 3 seconds before the feed begins. No news anchors, no commentary, just a silent full-frame view of the Artemis X ignition countdown. 10, 9, 8. Somewhere in the Indian Ocean, a Chinese sub tracks the objects from below the thermocline. In Australia, radio telescopes shift to infrared observation. In orbit, the ISS clears a data lane. Everyone's looking up now. 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. Artemis X roars to life on a column of plasma so bright it lights the launch site like a second sun. Within minutes, it breaks atmosphere. Within hours, it's outpacing every prior spacecraft ever built. Within 1 Earth day, it reaches the line. And then, contact. Not collision, not interference, but something changes. The lead object, which had been still for days, rotates. Not on its axis, not in a tumble. It rotates toward the approaching ship. For the first time, we see its underside. Smooth, symmetrical, perfectly black, a kind of darkness that doesn't absorb light, it denies it. The sensors on Artemis X overload instantly. Cameras die, magnetometers seize. And then, every signal goes dark. Not jammed, not broken. Muted. Like something covered the ship in a blanket of nothing. For 6 hours, Earth hears nothing. No data, no telemetry, no return, just silence. And then, Artemis X comes back online. Fully operational. Systems intact, instruments restored. But it's not where it's supposed to be. The capsule is drifting hundreds of kilometers off course behind the object formation. Impossible without external intervention. Impossible without manipulation. And inside its data banks, everything is different. Sensors captured nothing, but the onboard memory contains a file that no one put there, buried in non-volatile memory. No path, no creation log. A series of geometric sequences, nested tetrahedrons, fractal lattices, mathematical constants rendered as visual language. Then a final image. A star, one not found in any known catalog. Not in this galaxy. A message. Maybe a map. Maybe an origin. The implications detonate across the globe. Alien contact is no longer theory. It's proof. But more than that, it's structure. Intelligence, pattern, design. This wasn't a fluke. This was a reply. You sent a drone. They sent a coordinate. And now comes the decision that no one ever wanted to make. Do we go? Do we send something else? Do we knock on the door they just opened? Or do we shut it, lock it, and pretend none of this ever happened? In the halls of the UN, a new council is formed, the Committee for Interstellar Contact, CIC. Behind closed doors, generals, physicists, and philosophers all speak the same word in different tones. Protocol. Because once you've made contact, you're no longer a local species. You're known. You're on the map. And whatever left that map behind, whatever waited for your reply, has likely been watching longer than you've been alive. So the game shifts. It's no longer about proving you're not alone. It's about proving you're ready. And readiness doesn't just mean technology. It means temperament, curiosity, patience, willpower. Because the next step might not be ours to take. It might already be inbound. 3 weeks later, the objects begin to move again. Not away. Inward. Not toward Earth, but toward each other. One by one, they converge on a point near the edge of the moon's orbit, and then merge. Not crash. Not collide. Merge. 15 silent craft. Become one. And from the center of that fusion, a new object begins to take shape. Larger, more complex, like watching a flower bloom backward, folding in on itself, becoming something else. Its final form, a ring. Not solid, not opaque, a thin, shimmering halo of some kind of lattice, delicate but vast. And in its center, nothing. A void so precise, so mathematically clean, it distorts the background stars. A wormhole. A gate? A test? No one knows. But we understand one thing. We're being invited. Musk puts it in blunt terms. You don't send a map unless you want someone to follow it. And you don't build a door unless you're expecting guests. The US begins construction on Project Daedalus, a fusion-powered scout vessel, equipped for a one-way journey. China announces Heaven's Lantern, a similar mission. Europe and India quietly prepare contingency crews. And the debate begins. Who goes? Scientists? Pilots? Diplomats? What message do we send? And what do we risk by going? Because the door could be a gift or a cage. It could be a beacon or a trap. But here's what no one wants to say aloud. The invitation has an expiration date. The ring is changing. Its energy signature fluctuating. Its shape tightening. This isn't a permanent fixture. It's a window. A window that's closing. So here you are. Humanity, standing on the precipice of a new era. In one direction, silence, comfort, safety, and ignorance. In the other, the unknown. A dark path into deeper skies, where nothing is promised and everything could be lost or gained. No one can make that choice for you. Not Musk, not NASA, not the military. Because this is bigger than exploration. This is identity. This is who we are. Curious, cautious, or cowards. The clock is ticking. The ring waits. And somewhere out there in the void beyond stars, something ancient is watching. Not with weapons, not with warnings, but with a single question carved into the fabric of space itself. Are you ready? Overnight, the Daedalus mission transforms. It's no longer a launch, it's an answer. The ship is redesigned not just to collect, but to speak, to echo the patterns, to carry human art, music, pain, love, war, failure, redemption. Not a flag, not a beacon, a mirror. Because now the question isn't who are they? It's who are we? Do we dare show ourselves, all of ourselves? The horror, the beauty, the contradictions. Do we risk being known? The launch is set. Final countdown. Not everyone agrees. Some nations protest. Some demand delay. Others call it a betrayal of human sovereignty to respond without consensus. But in the end, no council speaks for all of humanity. Someone has to go first. And so Daedalus rises into the void, riding a lance of flame, carrying humanity's self-portrait into the waiting dark, not as conquerors, not as pilgrims, but as witnesses to ourselves. As Daedalus crosses the final approach vector to the ring, the formation stirs again. The monolith in the desert vanishes, not lifts off, not retreats, vanishes. No trace, no radiation, no residue, like it was never there. And the ring, it expands, not outward, inward. Its inner horizon swells like a lens focusing, pulling Daedalus into a spiral corridor of lightless energy. For a moment, space folds. No explosion, no light, just silence. And the ship is gone, gone, somewhere. 72 hours pass, then 84. No signal, no return. Hope starts to fracture. Was it lost, destroyed, swallowed? Then, a whisper from deep space. A tight beam stream of encrypted data, tagged with Daedalus's quantum signature. It arrives encoded in a pattern. Not even the AI understands at first. Then slowly, like fog clearing, it begins to translate. It's not telemetry. It's not images. It's thought. Not human. But now, familiar. Like a song half remembered. Like a voice from a dream. And it says, "We hear you. We've always heard you. Come." At that moment, a choice is made. Not by governments. Not by armies. But by us. By the species. A united vote. Not spoken, but felt. We go. Not just probes. Not just signals. Us. The Artemis Initiative is born. Crewed deep voyage craft. Real-time hybrid cognition. Human and AI blended. Built not for war, not for return, but for arrival. Construction begins in orbit. Lunar shipyards expand. Mars transfers accelerate. Humanity goes to DEFCON 0. Not for conflict, but for transition. The era of planetary thinking is over. This is the beginning of the interstellar mindset. Years from now, they'll look back at this moment, the shimmer, the gate, the invitation, and realize it was never about aliens. It was about readiness. Not for contact, for change. Because to meet something else out there, you have to first confront everything in here. The darkness, the brilliance, the impulse to reach further than we can see. That's what they were watching for. Not our power, not our peace, our potential. The ring still holds, still hums, still waits. One last question remains. When you pass through that gate, what part of you do you leave behind? And what part will survive the crossing? Because once you step through, you don't come back unchanged. You don't come back human in the way you were before. You come back aware.